Previously, we dismantled the gearbox and clutch. The damaged parts were purchased. We performed the initial clutch adjustment, hoping that it would not have to be done later on the car. We used a homemade bracket for adjustment. Everything looked promising. The gearbox was painted aluminum from the factory. After washing off the oil and mud that had accumulated over the years, we decided to paint it as well. Yes, I know that soon she will get dirty again. The paint was also restored to the parking brake and gearshift lever. New transmission oil for many years to come. I will use the gearbox cover from the donor. It needs a little anti-rust treatment and paint. As does the flywheel guard.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
One of the screws had come loose from the housing. We secured it with thread locker.
But everything is ready, so let's do this.
The last thing left was the crankshaft bearing. By making a simple tool, it came out quite easily. And now the new one could be installed.
Jedę. Rekord.
Jedę, mam trubbo. Tetto gole notte gaisa. No, грязь.
Homemade tool to remove the bearing. And the original gearbox cover. Apart from the PTO switch hole, it has a few more differences from the donor cover.
Zamka po tobie. Ja.
Putting the clutch disc and clutch basket back in was just as difficult as taking them out. The frame design makes it difficult to do so. Removing the rear engine bolts and raising or lowering the engine doesn't help either. We took the liberty of sawing off a 5mm corner, which was supposed to solve the problem. When cutting it down didn't give any positive results, we resorted to the wisdom of the internet. Loosen the front engine bolts and move the entire engine forward. It's only about 5mm short. I also used this moment to replace a good engine mount with a better one. Because when else will anything be touched here if everything works out? These 5mm solve half the problem. You can install either just the clutch basket or the clutch disc, but not both together. Sawing it off more from the traverse didn't seem like a smart idea. So we went to plan B. And at this point we realized that we hadn't unscrewed everything. The 4 engine bolts and the engine stabilizer bar weren't enough. The exhaust pipe was still holding the engine. As it turned out later, while trying to move the engine, the gasket between the exhaust pipe and the exhaust manifold broke. Considering the age of the gasket, a little movement was enough to damage it.
So all the cutting and other stuffs didn't lead us to the success. We figure out that we unscrew this front engine mounts and move all the engine to this way, so we get the space. But also we must release the exhaust, because that's holding too. And the other thing is 4 engine mounts, and here's the arm which holds the engine. I show you later.
And these small movements were enough to solve the lack of space. Maybe we shouldn't even cut anything. Just move the engine a little more. I didn't need any special tools to center the clutch disc. I could use the donor gearbox shaft. Perfect solution. For old cars, turning the engine is very easy to solve. Crank, or as we can call it, hand starter. The clutch basket is bolted to the flywheel with 6 bolts. I know that a torque wrench should also be used, but I don't have one yet. And following the old traditions, the applied torque is from feelings. A quick measurement to make sure we didn't damage the clutch release bearing pause while installing everything. The dimensions haven't changed.
Liefst wat toen aan de Sarah, toen heb je precies dat niet.
Yes, food.
Три спруды реки. Пойдем.
The lifting process was not easy. The gearbox weighs 53 kilograms. With the parking brake mechanism, all 65 kilograms are possible. Initially, the plan was to make a small winch mechanism that could be placed in the cabin. However, as usual, there was a lack of time and some things to implement the idea. The moment to reinstall the gearbox also appeared unexpectedly. Therefore, the event turned out to be physically difficult. To successfully install the gearbox, first, position the gearbox at the correct angle, fit the gearbox shaft exactly into the grooves, fit the gearbox precisely and the mounting bolts, push the end of the gearbox shaft into the crankshaft bearing. It would definitely be easier to do this with a winch.
Właśnie naciskam. Dobra, teraz patrzę, co mamy. Dobrze. Ja tu jeszcze. Dobra. Ja. Wiem o tobie. Ja.
Now we can reinstall the clutch parts. Spring, pedal, clutch release lever.
No.
To our surprise, knocking noises appeared. Everything turned, but the clutch was not working properly. As it turned out, there was too little free play left in the pedal. This was easily fixed by adjusting the pedal lever. Next, the remaining parts are assembled. The drive shaft needs to be screwed in. The parking brake lever. And I can go for a test drive.
Zostawić na zatlenem.
Ko tev palīdzēt? And here I wanna some explanation about why we take off that cover. When we put this gearbox in the truck, we know that it's not common that you push the gearbox on this lever, because you throw out it from let's show it. That's all that mechanisms, and it stands not in the correct position. So when you try shift some gear, it hits on the other gears, and yeah, that's why we take off this cover, lock this stick in the place, and then put it back. I know that it's not common to push up all the gearbox, but yeah, we have some difficulties with installing, so in some moment we just grab it by this and oh shit, I don't need to do this, but it's all back. And about that sounds when we install the gearbox, mount it, and when I switch gears it cracks. So as at the end we find out that the clutch gap is too much to this side, and oh, no, yeah, so it pushes to this shaft and turns all the gearbox with him. So when we adjust the clutch arm as it must be, then everything stands
Gear
okay.
shift lever dust cover. I haven't gotten the original one yet. This one is homemade, made from front-wheel drive car drive shaft dust cover and some truck rubber parts. It actually looks no worse than the original. And a new bolt for the engine mount. One of the old ones had a damaged thread on both the screw and the nut. On the donor GAZ, they had already been replaced with regular ones, which were also in poor condition.
One of the engine mount screws is completely dead. It's a dead thread on the nut and on the bolt. So I bought this one, but this is very hard. But they are without the hole for the pin, without this one. So let's now try to do something and drill some hole. And this one nut is too not like this one. On the donor truck already they are something like this without any holes. But let's try make something, because it's very loose, and I'm afraid that from the vibrations it can screw out, and then oh my god, we did it. Well, nice. We got pin. I don't know, it is worth it to put here or not. I don't know. Okay, the flywheel cover is now secured. I use only 4 bolts. You can screw here and There another two, but it goes nowhere, so we don't need this. Okay, to the next job. Next one job is one more time secure these bolts, because they usually opens up by itself. And again, this key wrench, sorry, and it's bent too, like the other one.
When fitting the gearbox cover, it turned out that there was no groove for the speedometer cable. Which seems strange, because there should be one, even if the cover was from a GAZ 53. Let's go to test drive.
So we can say that this is the result. We got gearbox in place. Today I retightened the shaft bolts. We put on the engine bolts pins and take this new cover and then put on this new made. It's from the drive shaft from the front wheel car, and it looks like original. So maybe if I find somewhere the original, I change later, but now I think it's very okay, and everything is like back to normal. Also, we got a new issues of this truck. Well, when we dismount the engine, so when we untied these bolts, this one to move the engine to front, to take out the put back the clutch and the clutch housing. The exhaust holds the engine, so we release the exhaust there, but before we try to move, and as a result is that this seal is now leaking and all the exhaust gases is coming on this tube. It's nothing critical, but we must pay attention on this to the next. Well, the next one thing is this. Here is the bearings. This is a water pump, and the bearings is already bad, worn out a little bit. They shaking and doing noises. So I think the next thing is the changing this water pump. But also I want to get ready. At first I find what bearings and seals must be there, try to get them, and only then I start to dismount this thing. It's nothing critical. Also, you must take out this diffuser, this one thing, I forgot what it calls, and then you can release it. And the most maybe terrible thing is that carburetor, which in this year do me some, I don't know how to call it, troubles. So when, as you see, the level is pretty okay, it's almost on the middle like it must be, and but the lack is when I start to drive, I change gear, so I push the clutch, release the throttle, the engine goes to is idle or close to idle RPMs, then I switch gear, and when I push the throttle again, it's doing something like and sometimes it shuts down by itself. So I don't know, in last year I don't have this problem, but in this year something is changed. I don't know what it is. I clean up all that parts, remove all the from the carburetor, but he's still doing something weird. Also, I adjust these screws to combine the mixing of the gasoline and air, but still a little bit less, but this problem appears. So that's what I must work to next. Also, my grill project in this year is not moving, so I drive with this newer style grill. I continue drive with this grill, but it's okay. So maybe to the summer end I'll fix it. Actually, it's a pretty good idea that I find all this grill, and when I take it off to change, I have a free access to this pump. Well, it can be a good reason to change a pump and a grill in the same time. Well, that's it for now. Oh yeah, of course I must change some tires. They are pretty bad. From this side it's like a new tire, it's ideal, but on the other side looks like it's stored somewhere in the sun, and there is a cracks which is not usable anymore to pass the tube inspection. Okay, to the next.